Hello and welcome to Mac Power Users. My name is Stephen Robles and joined as always by my friend and yours, David Sparks. How's it going, David?
It's going very well, Mr. Robles. We're heading into WWDC. Can you feel it?
I can feel the excitement. I'm excited to see all the iOS 27 updates, all of that. And I'm excited for our special guest. It's actually my first time ever podcasting with him as well. I think the first time we've ever spoken in real life. Myke Hurley, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. I think maybe after Marco, you have to correct me. I've now had the honor of every iteration of the show being a guest.
Yeah.
I'm happy to have that honor. I will say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm here, I am loving what you guys are doing right now. You're doing a great job. I'm loving MPU. You've still got me as a listener every week, even though my best friend's not there anymore. But Stephen, you couldn't be a better replacement. Like you're doing such a great job, and I'm loving the show. It's fantastic.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. An honor to talk to you. You know, I followed Relay since the beginning, and so it is a bit surreal for me now, speaking to David Sparks and Myke Hurley. But
we're happy to have you, Stephen. You've got the biggest audience of all of us, so we should all be nervous talking to you with your millions and millions of views on your Instagram.
Yeah.
So
Appreciate it. Well, I'm excited too because you just launched something days before we recorded, and it is absolutely blowing up. So not only are you co-founder of Relay, host of Upgrade, Connected, how many shows are you actually doing right now?
I don't know.
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. we won't even count.
Idea.
But you're about to add another one. So whatever it is, it's about to plus one because you just launched Designed in California, which we're going to talk about. It's very exciting.
Yeah, we're really pumped. I was very excited to come on the show because I told David about this and he's like, you got to come on the show and promote it. I was like, great. And in my mind, I was like, I'm going to come on and I'm going to sell this to the Mac Power Users audience and they'll hopefully will get us over the funding, but we did it already. So now I get to come on the show and be like, me and Jason Snell are making this podcast and let me tell you why you should check it out. So that feels really refreshing and exciting.
Yeah, and not only are we going to talk about this cool project, this show's releasing the day before the keynote, so this is our last chance to dig in on WWDC. So
love it.
This is gonna be fun.
We'll do something in more Power Users today about Dub and our hopes and dreams, in addition to in the real show. So we'll figure that out as we get there, as we're excited. But Myke, tell us, Design in California, have you seen a podcast do a Kickstarter before launching? Because I don't know if I've really been a part of something like this.
I haven't been a part of it, but it does happen.
Okay.
Like, there is precedent for this. I mean, something that Jason has been saying a lot since we started this process, and I'll talk in a minute about where it came from, is that we are treating Kickstarter the way that Kickstarter should be treated, in that this will only happen if people fund it, and we're not, we don't have like a complete product that will be released when the Kickstarter is done, right? Like I think a lot of companies now use Kickstarter as a marketing tool more than a let's get a business started tool. And me and Jason are definitely in the category of this can only happen if the funding goal was met, which it has been, because this project is going to be an intense amount of work, and for us to do it correctly, which is the only way we want to do it. And so we decided to go to Kickstarter as the way to make that a reality.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, Keychron and Peak Design.
Yeah,
every time you guys send me a new Kickstarter, I'm like, this thing isn't a Kickstarter. They're going to make it. Yeah,
they were like, it's like like the Peak Design stuff is like, oh, it will deliver in a month. It's like, oh, that means it's made. These things are being made across the ocean and shipped it. Like, you're good. Like, you've done these things. Look, it's no shade on people that do this. It's a thing. Like, it works, but it's just not what we were doing. Like, we were really approaching this as the campaign success will dictate as to whether the show could be made and how good it can be.
Okay, but not everybody knows what this is all about. So get us back to the basics, Myke.
Yes. Sorry. So Design in California is going to be a podcast where we will be telling the stories of Apple's history. I am very pleased to have Jason Snell as my co-host. Jason has been reporting about Apple for 30 years of the company's 50 years across the various magazines and outlets that he's worked for. And I have been a lover and enthusiast of Apple for 25 years of my life, like half of the company, and I've been following them as a fan and someone who loves the products. And then for the last, 10, 15 years, have been talking about them every week on podcasts just like this one. when Apple turned 50 at the beginning of April, Jason and I produced a special episode of Upgrade, which is the podcast that we do every week here on Relay, where we talk about what Apple's up to. Like we talk about news, product reviews, and stuff. But we did an episode of Upgrade, which was essentially a version of what Design in California will be. So it was a very well researched and scripted to a degree. Like Jason wrote a script that we would go through, and it was after him reading a bunch of books and reading a bunch of articles to talk about the origin of Apple, kind of how the Steves met and how they came to found this company, the company that then turned 50. And we thought it would be a 20-30 minute segment on that episode of Upgrade. We did it for 100 minutes because once we got into it, we were cooking and just having a great time talking. Jason would talk about the research and talk about the things he'd learned to tell the story, and I'm jumping in and asking questions, and we just had so much fun. Jason and I love a podcast called The Rest is History, which it is essentially taking things from all world history and telling them in an engaging and entertaining way. It's the most fun I've ever had consuming any kind of history in my life. And basically what we did with this episode of Upgrade was tell their story, the story of Apple's origin, in a kind of rest is history style. After we did this, we got so much great feedback. We were convinced that this was a show that we wanted to produce. And so we set about working out how we could do it. Kickstarter felt like the right method for us. We wanted to know people wanted this show. And essentially, we're asking people to kind of pre-buy a Relay membership. So when the show launches in a few months from now, because we've met our funding goal, there will be an ad-supported weekly version of the show that comes out. But if you back the Kickstarter and become a member that way, you will get no ads in the show. And every time we do a new topic, which we think will be about every month, and we'll have episodes rolling out weekly, as a member, you get all of the episodes at once. So instead of waiting every week for each 30 to 45-minute episode, you get them all at once, and so you can listen to it at your own speed. This is exactly what The Rest is History does for their membership, and it's great because they'll drop like 6 episodes about World War I, and I've listened to them by the end of the week. I don't have to wait for 6 weeks to get every single one of them. So that's what we're doing with Design in California. We're going to tell the stories non-chronologically. So we're going to be jumping all over Apple's history and telling stories that are exciting, interesting, and timely as well. Like we want to tell iPhone stories at iPhone time, WWDC stories at WWDC time. And going backwards and forwards, we're going to be bringing in guests, like subject matter experts for certain topics. We're really excited about it. The campaign is running right now at design.fm. We have blown past our funding goal. We have a bunch of stretch goals that we're going to be sharing throughout the campaign. So the show is going to be happening. And if you do want an idea for it, every Thursday in June, we're publishing an extra episode of Upgrade, which is an episode of Design in California. So it will be telling the story of how Apple goes from Apple I to the Apple II. So you will get to hear what the podcast will sound like when it launches later. So it will launch for everyone. If you don't want to back the Kickstarter campaign or you're unable to and you like the idea of the show, Design in California will be a regular Relay show that will be available for everyone later. And then there will also be the membership version that Kickstarter backers will get.
So do only members get the episodes in June? Is that?
No, everyone. So that's everyone's getting those. It will be a second episode of Upgrade.
Gotcha.
For the whole month. So
awesome.
We publish Upgrade on Mondays. These bonus episodes will come out, special episodes will come out on Thursdays. They'll be available for everyone. So you can get a taste for what the show is going to be like maybe before you back it.
That's awesome. Yeah, got in there and supported on day one, and you had already blown past the goal by the time I even saw the webpage. And now this is like the third day, maybe? Second day?
Yeah. No, second day. It's been, when we're recording this, it's been 25 hours.
Oh,
we've raised over $100,000 when we're recording. We met our funding goal in 2 hours. I will say this, when we were going into this project, it felt like one of the bigger risks of my career because like you're kind of really putting yourself out there. And I feel like now this is one of the greatest achievements of my career that we've done this. I'm so pleased and excited and humbled that people are supporting it this way.
Well, when you're doing a Kickstarter like this, where if it doesn't reach the goal, it won't happen, everyone, like you put yourself at risk for a public failure.
Absolutely.
If you don't hit that goal, it's not happening.
Which is why I have been like hesitant to do Kickstarter campaigns for projects in the past, because I'm scared of the failure aspect, right?
Absolutely.
Because you are failing hard.
Yeah.
If you fail a Kickstarter campaign, you are failing big time in public, and our listeners are showing up for us. So I'm so thrilled because I'm so excited about this project and that we're also getting to do it the way we want, which is a weekly show essentially. We are thrilled. Jason and I we're building a really big Notion database of all the topics that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
We have years of content planned that we could do, like just years of content that we would like to do. So we're really, really pumped for this show.
I know it's early, but have you guys thought about, I mean, you said subject matter experts, but maybe interviews with former Apple, maybe current Apple?
Hopefully. There is we want to do interviews as part of the show, and we think we definitely, there's be a lot of authors and people that have written books, but we would absolutely love to have whoever would like to come and tell their story on Designed in California. That door is open. If any former executives, maybe who are involved in musicals right now, would like to come on the show, we'll have them. Is what we're saying.
Or even even go back to the original team, like Susan Kerr and some of those folks.
Yes.
I feel like that would be fantastic.
And we are hoping that the kind of the success of this show and the pedigree that we bring, especially that Jason brings, may kind of open us up to some avenues here. I think we're also hoping, maybe there are people, and I expect maybe a lot of, the Mac Power users audience who they're not necessarily interested in a show like Upgrade. They don't need the news, or they don't need that or they don't want that kind of subject, but they would love to hear people talk about Apple's history. And so we're hoping that this is why we wanted to do this as its own show as well, and not make it a part of Upgrade. This is like a fresh thing that Jason and I are doing for a similar audience, but hopefully a new one as well.
Yeah.
I'm also a bit envious because this is also going to be evergreen. And a lot of us in the tech sphere, there's a lot of Mac Power User episodes that are evergreen, talking about apps or how you use your productivity system. But there's still an element of, 10 years from now, the tools are going to be very different. Mm-hmm. But when you're talking about Apple history and doing that, it'll be a podcast that will be evergreen. So 30 years from now, if someone wants to listen to all of it, it will still be just as relevant. It'll still be fun to listen to. I'm curious, being a new show, I know how I think, and even just launching a solo show recently, video versus audio. It sounds like this is an audio-only podcast. Did you guys talk about that at all? Decision? How did it look?
It's not necessarily audio-only.
Okay.
Now, we do have some complexities. So we produce Upgrade as video. We do not do as good a job as you guys do with Mac Power Users, but there is a video version of Upgrade, but it is essentially just the Riverside core, which is cut up, but we're not putting a lot of graphics and stuff like that in the show. And there is a different editing process for both. We have a video editor who makes the video show. We have an audio editor who makes the audio show. So we can't take advantage of some of the new things like the HLS stuff and the Spotify stuff for switching between the two because they're cut differently. That is a particular issue for Designed in California. So for the episodes that we've done so far, the test episodes, we've had our wonderful audio editor, Jim Metzendorf, who edits this show.
Mm-hmm.
Jim has done a great cut of them. But then I've gone in and I would say tweaked them to... I have tweaked those episodes like you wouldn't believe. Like I've made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cuts to them. Because
that's not a tweak. That's not a tweak.
Yeah, that's not... hundreds of tweaks is not tweaking anymore.
That's not tweaking, yeah.
I've gone in and really, really, really edited them to be the best they could be because it's not just... fixes. I'm making a lot of content edits, and I'm doing that as the show begins because I'm trying to learn the show, like learn how it should sound and learn how it should feel. I actually recommend this to anybody that starts a podcast. You should edit the podcast yourself to begin because you will learn so much about what your show should be by being the person who has to fix the things that you want fixed. Like you will absolutely learn so much. You don't have to edit it forever, but you should edit it to begin. And so for now, the audio version Designed in California has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more cuts than the video version. We don't know yet how we're going to deal with that, but these episodes that we're doing that will go in the Upgrade feed, there will be a video version of them. It will be cut differently to the audio version, and that is just a thing we will deal with. But there's something to be said that a video version of this show could be really interesting. It could add a lot to the show. So we don't know how to deal with it yet, but we do believe there is a video opportunity here. But we will, as I am, it will be audio first. But there hopefully will be a video component to the show in the future.
I got a vision for you, Mike. Just close your eyes. See this. Okay, a card table, right, with a Mac on it, 2 microphones, in the driveway of the Jobs house.
Oh,
now look,
You're just saying that.
there are some stretch goals, and we would like to do some episodes of the show or some fun video content, like me and Jason in certain places around the world. Like, there's some stuff that we can do with this show because there are physical locations that are meaningful, and it would be fun to work out what that might look like.
I'll mention too the version history from The Verge. I listened to their episode about the Western Bell 900.
Yeah.
It was like AT&T, old school phone, and it was an awesome podcast. It was, again, much like we're talking about here, history and all the stuff, but they had a segment in the middle of the episode where someone went to like a museum and had this guy from New York with a heavy accent, which I loved, talk all about the inner workings of this mechanical phone. And it was really cool because I only listened to the audio version, and that was very compelling. And then later I went and watched that same clip on YouTube because then I could see everything they were talking about. And so I almost, you could almost do a hybrid thing where, it is audio first with a video and maybe segments that are
or supplemental videos
Right.
that go alongside the show. This show definitely has different content opportunities, and that's what I'm excited to explore. Like on Upgrade, me and Jason, we love to kind of push stuff, and one of our trademark things now is the summer of fun, because there is a period of time between June and September where there's no news, nothing's happening, and so we had to kind of create like episodes that we do that are just fun episodes. And so these are the kinds of things that over the 10, 11, 12 years maybe that me and Jason have been producing Upgrade now, we've worked out our rhythm for the fun things we can do and how we can mix the show up. And I'm looking forward to working out what they will be for Design in California. And I do think there is an opportunity for much more video to go alongside the audio podcast.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I like about this show is the format itself. Mac Power Users is a very prep-heavy show. We spend a lot of time figuring it out. And all you guys that do these news shows always I always am a little jealous because you have a list of items, you show up, you talk for a while, you got a podcast.
Now, I'm going to stop you right there, all right? Because Upgrade takes me 1 to 2 hours of prep per episode every Monday. Like, it's not none.
Yeah, no, I agree. But now you're having your hold my beer moment because you guys are going really hard at this one.
Yes. Now, I will say that this is mostly on Jason.
Yeah.
So, Jason will be writing the material. And trying to communicate this is complicated. There is essentially a script for this show, but it is not a scripted show. So, Jason writes the script, and that puts the information in his head. And we're kind of referring to things that are in the script, but he's not just sitting there and reading a Google Doc to you, right? Like, we're still having a conversation, but he's telling the story. But yes, this is the majority of work for the show because we care about it being, what I would love us to make is like the ultimate telling of Apple's history. That's what I would like this show to be over its history. And because of that, we're pulling from sources, books and magazines, podcasts, oral histories, interviews, and everything we possibly can. And, like in the episodes about the Apple II that are going out in June, there's some things in that show, in some of these episodes, that are, like, Jason found some details that he was able to try and do some research on, and we think there's some information in the show that hasn't really been spoken about. And this is the thing that I'm finding to be the most exciting about this project, is I'm learning stuff that I just didn't know, or there are assumptions that I had made that people just talk about that aren't exactly the way that things went down, but Jason calls it like the flattening of history. Like over time, it's just like, oh, there's this thing that happened, and we all just kind of assume that was how it went. But the more we're able to kind of tease out and cross-reference from book to book, from oral history to oral history, we learn it's a little bit more complicated than that, which is great. But yes, that is the many, many, many hours of work. And that is why we wanted to do this in the way, launch the show in the way that we did, is because we want to commit to it. To do that, though, Jason has to commit a lot of time to writing these shows and understanding what he needs to know. But I think it's going to produce something that people are really going to get a kick out of.
Well, I'd just like to say, I don't know that there's another podcast that has more overlap with Mac Power users than this show, Mike. Both Steven and I are already backers. We've got a link in. If you don't want to back it, I get that. Just sign up for the show when it comes out. But if you do want to back it, we've got a great link there. You can go. They've got a bunch of different levels. And I honestly can't wait to start listening to the shows. I can't think of two people more qualified to do this show, and I just can't wait to see what you guys do, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, designed.fm. You can go there, and that will be the link to the Kickstarter, and will probably be the link to the show if you're listening to this many years in the future, which I do know people do with Mac Power users. Like, you guys are more evergreen than most.
Yeah, but we broke Relay. I love that. When we came on the network.
Yeah, this is the story we told many times, but when we brought Mac Power users in, every time an episode posted, it took the entire website down because the feed was so large at that point. Man, that was rough, but we were all so happy to have you, continue to be. But yeah, design.fm is where you can go. You can back the Kickstarter campaign, find out more about the show, and Designed in California will launch in a couple of months later on this year for everybody. So we're so excited and we're so grateful. Please check it out. I really think you're going to enjoy it.
All right. The interesting dichotomy of this episode to me is that we talked about history at the beginning, and now we're talking about making history at the second half of the show, because we're heading to WWDC, which may be a historic WWDC if they get it right. Mike, what are you thinking heading into tomorrow's keynote as this episode drops?
Okay. So, well, one, I'm going to be there, which I'm very excited about.
Hey, can I ask an inside baseball question, actually?
Yeah.
Did that, if you're okay saying, did that invite come like later than the other media invites?
Yes.
Because when you posted it, I was like, wait a minute.
I wasn't just being coy. No,
right. I was like, you okay, I was just curious.
Sometimes these things, they take a minute.
It's a black box. I
don't know.
Yeah. It's stuck in the mail, the carrier pigeon, you never know.
Yeah, so
I've been on that list in the past where you get a last-minute invite. That's been me.
I've been a first-minute invite and a last-minute invite. This will be my second WWDC, the third WWDC that I was invited to. One of them, I was stuck in a hotel room with COVID.
Yeah,
so sad. I was so sad for you. I remember listening to that episode with CGP Grey, and I was.
This is part of my lore now. Like, this is part of the lore.
I remember.
But then I went to 23 and had like the best experience ever. So it was.
I remember walking by the building and just yelling really loud, "Hey, Mike! Hey, Dina!"
No one will come near me for good reason.
I'm excited to meet you. I'm excited to meet you in person.
Yes,
it'll be my second
I can't wait.
as well. So
I cannot wait. So, WWDC 2024, I was at home for that one, and I had a feeling of dread for that WWDC because it was like, this is obviously going to be about AI, but how bad is it going to be?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember having that feeling, and the keynote happened, and Jason and I record Upgrade as soon as we can after the keynote. We like to try and be first. But for a bunch of logistical reasons in 2024, we couldn't record until Tuesday. And I was so happy because the keynote ended and I felt like I had shell shock. Like, I had no idea what I had just seen. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Some of the things like image playgrounds and stuff, I was like, this just feels like a terrible mistake. So the fear that I had was borne out. Going into WWDC 26, I feel like we're in a similar situation where this one is going to be AI again. Like, I can't think of it being anything else. But I am hopeful this time that they're gonna show me a bunch of features that I'll actually be able to use, and some of them that I will really enjoy. And so, like, I have a feeling of like, I'm on the team of, you got to show me what you can do, but I believe in you. Where in 2024, I did not believe in it.
Well, and a big factor is you can believe in Google behind the scenes of whatever Apple is announcing.
Yeah, the Gemini.
And this is it. That they are making some decisions that are the right decisions, which are not the decisions you'd necessarily assume they would have made, right? But I think they have gotten to a point where they realize they need to be in this world, and they're too far behind, so they have to do some leapfrogging. And hopefully Gemini is the leapfrog that they need to be able to get some really good user features. That I don't care who has the model. I don't care. But what I want from Apple is good user features. I believe that they're possible, that like now without the distraction of we need to build the model, I believe they can do this, but that's what I'm hoping for.
And there's also the whole segment of features that were announced 2 years ago and never shipped, like a personalized voice assistant. And then there's also the bucket of features that they didn't announce, but we've heard rumors of and are being promised now. So step one, I'm curious, the personalized Siri. One, the presenter who was in the Apple Intelligence portion of the keynote 2 years ago, Kelsey Peterson, she's now at OpenAI, which I kind of think is hilarious. So I'm curious, is it going to be Craig Federighi, someone else? But when I was at WW last year, I was very curious, like, are they going to say anything about this? Because it's very delayed, and it was just a very quick offhanded comment during the keynote. Craig Federighi said, we talked about these, they're not ready yet, stay tuned. And like, that was it. It was like 5 seconds. Do you think, Myke, like we're going to have a reiteration of the same features from 2 years ago? Are they going to frame it? Like, how can they reframe this? Just releasing some of the same features?
I don't think we're going to get all those features.
Oh, you don't think so? Okay.
No, I don't think so, because we don't have them, so I don't know why we would get them, because I don't think these features were real.
But the personalized Siri is still
some of them
rumored
will
to happen.
Come.
Yeah,
you know, like, and I guess you mean like the personal context stuff, like
personal
where
context
it knows a bunch of stuff about you.
Right.
Yeah, in theory, that feels like a feature that they should do. Can they? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a big lift, right? Like,
Listen, let me tell you something, Myke. I built a lot of shortcuts in my day.
Oh, have you?
and technically, like, I even have built some where I can search through your mail, text messages, events, notes, all in one shortcut, and then use an Apple Intelligence action at the end to find something through an ask for input and like surface the information you want. I've even created shortcuts that search messages faster than the Messages app, just because the way Shortcuts pulls that information is just so much faster. I feel like, personally, I think that stuff is there, and they just needed a model that was good enough to parse requests consistently.
Maybe.
And I think
well,
I've talked. Yeah.
I feel like the thing you're dancing around here is context, right? The models are important. I'm glad they're using the Gemini model, but the question is, how much context are they going to free up? Because I've always felt like that's Apple's ace in the hole. If they do it locally on device, users can safely have it access their calendars and their tasks and their contacts and all that stuff, which can, with all that context, any decent AI can become super useful. The question, and that's what they said essentially 2 years ago, which is why I was, a big fan of it. But of course, I always say I feel like Charlie Brown in the football. Every time I come to give it a kick, they yank it out. But if they give it the context, if they take the Google model and they give it adequate context, they are suddenly right in the game, because they've got the users and they have the context that OpenAI, frankly, doesn't have. So it's really up to them. But whenever you see, like, there's a good interview with Federighi and Jaws 2 or 3 months ago, and they go out of their way to say, look, this is the early days of AI. We're not going to just jump on the bandwagon. We're only going to do useful stuff. One fear I have is that they're going to be too stingy on context and make it not as useful.
Well, one of the challenges my co-host Jason was talking about, for personal context to work, it needs to know all the things. So if you ask it, what time is my mom's flight? If that's in an email, it needs to be able to reach into there. If it's from a text message there. And if someone uses a third-party app like Outlook or Gmail for their email and don't have their email accounts connected to the stock iOS system, can it do that? And so there is also a dependency on those third-party developers like Microsoft, Google, Gmail. Well, they'll have to, hopefully this will be one of the announcements, that third-party can play into that. And that's what they talked about 2 years ago, too. But who knows if that'll be open by the fall.
I wouldn't necessarily assume that will come in year one.
Well, another piece of that question to me is Model Context Protocol, MCP. Everybody is building it. If Apple wants this thing to be immediately relevant, they should have MCP built in from day one. and then that solves your problem, Stephen. Like,
True.
if you use Gmail and Gmail has an MCP, then the new Siri can access it. And
now, Apple need to work out, if they're going to do something like that, they have to work out a user-friendly approach, right, for doing these connectors and like that. They're good at that kind of stuff, and a way of kind of being able to communicate it to people in a way that makes sense. They can just say it's like an extension. There was a Mark Gurman rumor of AI extensions, and this could be part of that, right? Like, it's not just chatbots, but it's like, hey, Gmail has an AI extension, but actually it's just the MCP. And like, but when you put that into Siri, now your Gmail is searchable in Siri. Like, that's the kind of thing that I could imagine they may do.
Yeah, but there's a different version of this where they say, well, we have our own version of MCP, and you go through us, and we approve it, and then they are going to be irrelevant because people are not going to build it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder if that's maybe something that Apple on the 2024 timeline would have done, but maybe Apple in the 2026 timeline, I'm not sure they can get away with it, right? But we'll have to wait and see.
I just got another vision, if you'll allow, David, for your Design in California podcast, a multiverse season of the podcast where you talk about what Apple could have done.
What could have happened? Like, what if AirPower had shipped? What would we be charging our devices on?
Yes.
What if Apple Maps wasn't terrible? Like,
what if they hadn't fired Steve?
Yes.
I'm just saying, just throwing that out there. You could take that for free.
I love that. I'm writing it down right now.
Thank you. I'm curious, Mike, because in addition to like the voice assistant stuff, which remains to be seen, Mark Gurman at Bloomberg has talked a lot about other AI type features, even as much as like in the camera and Photos app. We have image playgrounds right now. There's even the ChatGPT extension, but Mark Gurman has said that even in Photos, you might be able to reframe the shot or expand the shot, which airs more into generating content than just, removing a subject, which is generating in a way. I'm curious, I don't know if I've heard you say, like, how do you feel about the more AI photo generation in Apple stuff?
The reframing thing, I don't understand, like the way it's been explained. Like, it's one of these things that Mark has explained. It's like using the spatial photo technology. So I just don't get it, right? Like, they're going to have to show me that. The expanding and reframing, I think this is great. Like, I have a lovely family. I have photos that I want to put on my lock screen of my family. Sometimes the image doesn't fit exactly where I want on the lock screen, and Apple has like an extend feature on the lock screen kind of picker, but it's not that good.
It's not good.
I would like to be able to just decide how much generative content goes at the top. Like, if there's a bit of a tree, make a full tree. Like, I did this. So I had a photo of my wife holding my baby, and they're standing in front of a tree. And it was cut off, and it wasn't. I needed the photo to be taller so it would be a good lock screen image. So I used Photoshop's generative fill. Did it? It just filled in the rest of the tree. Perfect. I want Apple to do this, and like put it in the Photos app, put it in the lock screen thing, make it super simple for people to be able to just frame images the way that they want to. That, like, making a fake background, I'm like mostly fine with. The idea of like, like you're seeing a lot of stuff now where you're like changing the image. I kind of can't reconcile that yet.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I ever will. Like, taking like your friend out, putting someone in. Oh, now you're dressed as superheroes. Like, that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't really understand it. I can't get my head around it.
I think an example of the reframing, during Google I.O., there was a clip where they showed off these photos. Like, if you have a photo and maybe you want to make a poster out of that image, maybe you can, reframe the subject so they're smaller, which lets you add text on it. And I could see these kinds of tools playing into like Pages, where there's lots of templates already. You have Creator Studio now with a bunch of templates. Maybe you can do that, and they let you reframe the photos for those kinds of things, or like social media, be able to make a bunch of social media stuff. But there is a difference between that and I feel like, put a hot air balloon in the background of my photo, just apropos of nothing, which they also did during the Google keynote. It's like, okay. But having those closer and closer to the camera, Neil at The Verge talks about this all the time. Is like, what is a photo? Where can we, and I'm also curious, maybe let me know what you think, if Apple will actually talk about C2PA or other AI marker type technology. I mean, it doesn't feel like they would put it in the keynote, but maybe.
I could imagine that on one of those bento slides, right?
Yeah,
At the end of iOS.
Or State
I
of the
can't
Union,
imagine them standing there and talking about particular but I can imagine them saying like, we're going to watermark these images and just like move on and then maybe have a bit more detail later. I don't even know how I feel about the watermarking stuff. It feels like a band-aid over a self-inflicted problem from say like Google of like, hey, we're going to let you create all these fake images. We're going to watermark them. It's like, yeah, but because people need to know, like they're building these tools. It's like, because people need to know this stuff's made with AI. It's like, well, you could just not offer the new feature. You know, like if it's a problem, you don't have to do it. So
it was also really funny because with image playgrounds, you can generate images out of nothing, but they're always very cartoony. And no matter how many times I tried, it would not generate a body on a person. Like there were many times where I would give it an image playgrounds, like the app on the iPhone, and I would tell it, put me on a polar bear in medieval knight garb, and it would refuse to do it. It would put like the polar bear on my shoulder, and it would just be from the neck up. Like they're very careful.
Stephen, I'm not sure if you're aware, the model for image playgrounds is terrible.
It is terrible.
The reason is because it's not good.
It was also funny, like if you'd say, make a picture of Steven holding an iPad mini, it would refuse because of copyright law.
Yes.
Like it would not put an Apple product in your hand. It was just weird.
It was a bad feature that I can't believe we still have. And they're probably going to make it better. I don't know how much better they can make it.
But to Steven's bigger question, like I think there's just such a spectrum with images. Like I had a 1930s photo of my dad and his brother that was overblown, and it was a terrible picture. But that was the only picture we had of him at that age. And AI made it look beautiful. Like they're still the same people, but it fixed that picture. But then to me, that's totally acceptable use of AI. Then you had that controversy where if you take a picture of the moon with your phone on certain Android phones, it's not actually the moon you saw that night. It just regenerates the moon. To me, that's over the line. And we all have to figure out where the line is. And
this is why, like, and I don't mean this, like, so I don't really like talking about image generation stuff because it's too messy and everyone has their own personal lines. And I don't think there is. Well, actually, I think there's a right and wrong, but I know everybody else thinks there's a right and wrong too. Where I feel like some of the features that I'm excited about are things like the rumor of like grammar checking tools in the writing tools. That would be so helpful for me because it's something that I'm not very good at. I struggle with this kind of stuff. And I love the idea of having the iOS keyboard or the macOS keyboard as well, having these tools built into them that can suggest ways to make my writing better that's not rewriting it. It's just there are rules that I'm not very good at, but it can help me understand them and make suggestions. Like that kind of idea is very exciting to me because it's about what I have making it better, not creating something from whole cloth. I like the idea of the AI helping, I go 90% and it takes me that last 10. That's more of the stuff that I want them to do, and I'm hopeful for that.
If I had to bet a nickel, I'd say that's what you're going to get. A lot of user-facing features that don't feel like you're working out of a chat bot at all. I think the stretch goal is the type of stuff we were talking about earlier, MCPs, context. And my pitch, Tim, if you're listening, is that there are so many people. I'm teaching this robot course. There are so many lawyers, doctors, professionals that want these AI tools, but they can't use them because they're all going out to external servers like Anthropic or OpenAI. Apple has all the pieces in their bag to make a local system that does the higher end stuff we're talking about. If they made that, and they've got, frankly, the M5 chip is built for it. If they made local models that allowed you to use local context and really do it right, I feel like they would be right at the top of the charts of this AI stuff, despite the fact,
It's the dream. If they're able to really make some very, very good local models and also local models that developers can use too, it really would be incredible. I don't know if that's this year, but I do have faith in them.
But Myke, it's not even the local models. It's the harness. It's the ability to do it all on device with local context. And it's the question to me is, do they have the vision for it or not? And maybe I'm looking at this from a biased standpoint because I've been so in the woods on this stuff. But I just feel like they are in the perfect spot to really make a move. And I hope that happens. But I do think regardless, we're going to get the kind of stuff you're talking about, the built-in invisible AI stuff. I think that's what they really are leaning at. All right, guys, I'm going to just throw it out there. Is liquid glass going to get better tomorrow?
Oh, why?
Wait. I need to know, Myke, where are you on the scale of 1, I hate it, 5, I love it, or 10, I love it? Where are you on the macOS Tahoe, like, continuum?
You went right for the jugular.
Yeah,
yeah. I would say for Tahoe, I'm like flat in the middle, where like it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. Now, I feel like I'm way higher on the scale for the iPhone. I think that liquid glass on the iPhone looks great. I enjoy it a lot. I think it's a really nice redesign. It is as imperfect as I would imagine a first iteration of a redesign to be. Like, it's got some rough edges, but I am very happy when like an app that I use gets its liquid glass redesign. Like, they're still coming in, and I'm like, oh great, like I love this.
And I would argue that a lot of third-party apps did it better than Apple in some ways.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me though. You know, like people like, you know, like Apple has to make the design for everything. As a third-party developer, you have your app. Like, you have your app, and like I can focus it on this experience. How do I make it work for me? But with the Mac, I feel like they made some tweaks that are fine. They made some tweaks that I would say a lot of the community thinks are not fine. These things don't bother me as much. I'm less kind of sacred cow with the Mac. But I don't really think that they like lived up to it like they did on the other platforms. Like I feel like this one, it did not get the attention. I think if we're going to see any changes to liquid glass, it will be on macOS. I think they may push macOS into some better directions. That would be my bet. I don't think there will be much noticeable change on the other platforms.
It's a shame, too, because macOS Tahoe introduced so many great features. I mean, shortcuts, automations came to the Mac because of Tahoe. Spotlight got massive upgrades, built-in clipboard manager, the more customizable control center with multiple pages. And it's a shame because all those features kind of get lost because everyone just can't get past the window dressing of macOS, which, to be fair, like how you use the operating system is 100% what you see. And so if that really bothers you, I totally get why. But I'm hoping just a bunch of design tweaks, maybe, everybody says this, but a snow leopard type year for macOS, but on the design side. Just fix all the little things, make it nice to look at, and, you know, bump up a couple features. And I think that'd be great for macOS.
And I do think if they could focus on saying that they're working on bug fixes and stability, and that's like a code to macOS users that I think would be like, everyone will be really excited about that. Like, in a way that if you said it for the iPhone, I think people will be a bit like, yeah, but no, unless autocorrect. If they said they're fixing autocorrect again, big cheers. Even though I have no problem with it. I know people hate autocorrect. I don't know why.
You don't feel like it's gotten worse on the iPhone?
I don't feel that way at all.
David, how do you feel? Autocorrect on the iPhone, better or worse?
I don't notice it as much worse, but to be honest,
you dictate everything.
You're just almost everything.
You're autocorrecting yourself.
I rarely type, so there you go.
I speak great, so no problem.
No problems here.
I type all the time. My wife, at least once a week, she's like, "Why is this so?" And
Stephen, I'll ask you: do you tap type or swipe type?
Well, I tap type. I don't swipe.
See, I'm a swipe typer. Maybe this is the thing.
Me too. Yeah.
Maybe swipe typers, we're having a great time, but tap typers, you're struggling.
I've never swipe typed in my life. I couldn't.
Oh, you're missing out, man.
No, I'll go straight to dictation.
You're a big phone user too. I can't believe you're tap typing. Swipe typing's the dream.
I don't know what could convince me to try swipe. Do you like swiping, David?
Yeah, that's the only way I type on the phone.
I know how we can do this.
I can't even believe it. I just threw my
David, you need to make an episode about swipe typing, and it will force him to do it.
Next episode, all swipe typing, top to bottom.
You've talked about 18,000 utilities for the keyboard, and now you're talking about swiping to type. No,
Steven,
thank you.
No. You've got to try it.
No,
it's like magic. Like, you feel like you're like Doctor Strange or something. You're just like, you're moving stuff around. It's great, man. I love swipe typing.
I just find it faster than tap typing because
more reliable.
You don't have to. You don't have.
Well,
to
more reliable is the issue with the keyboard, not the
look.
The
okay,
autocorrect.
so swipe typing, it's like vibe typing. You're not actually hitting all of the letters that you need.
I'm not falling
You're
for this
just
propaganda.
going in
This
the
is
direction.
propaganda. I'm not falling for this at
You're
all.
just like, it's like jazz. That's why it's like jazz.
It's like
jazz.
jazz?
For
That's
typing.
why I love it. That's why
Jim,
I love it.
please,
all over the
please be
place.
offended by that comment. It is not like jazz.
It
That's
is.
terrible.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. I mean, it's
See?
Steven, you're a classical trumpeter player. I'm a jazz
Yeah.
saxophonist, and
Yeah.
I swipe type. That's
He
all.
likes
I'm saying.
rules.
I
The man
cannot
likes
believe
rules.
this. This is an
Swipe
affront.
typing. That's the way to go.
I'm gonna have to all afternoon. I'm gonna recover from this.
He's only going to type on his keyboard exactly like Beethoven thought he should.
I cannot. Okay. Anyway, I don't even know where to go next. Okay, swipe typing, I guess, is great. What do you? I guess I just downloaded like one of the whisper things so I can start dictating, and now you're telling me to swipe around.
No,
Anyway.
well, there's two different devices, but no, I dictate primarily on my phone. But if I'm going to type on my phone, I swipe.
I can't believe this. All right, let's talk about iPad.
All right.
Mike,
Oh,
iPad. Last year we got windowing, and then we got two like backtracks because iOS 26.2 and .3 brought back slide over, and then it brought back split view, and now we have quite an amalgamation of ways to window things on iPad.
yeah. I feel like I'm almost like Apple PR's broken into the conversation, Stephen. I wouldn't call them backtracks.
Excuse me. Yeah,
They
how would you frame
were
that?
like, and I'm being like, but they were additions because they didn't go back on the windowing. Like you,
They
could
totally
still
went back
do
on
all
slide
of
over.
the
Slide
stuff.
over is a total backtrack.
Yeah, but it's not like there was something that they took away to bring slide over back. You know what I mean?
I'm being gaslit so much in this podcast.
No,
I
I'm with
can't
you,
even-
Steven. I'm with you on this one. This is a
Okay, thank you,
backtrack.
David. Thank you.
They acquiesced.
You already
to
got
the-
your
to the-
invite.
to the
You already
audience.
got your invite for WWDC.
I
You don't have
genuinely
to do
believe
this.
it though. Like a backtrack would have been if they would have been like, like backtracking is like what they did to the first windowing system, right? Where they're like,
Sure, but slide
forget
over
all
was
that.
gone. iPadOS 26.0,
Yeah.
there was zero slide over.
all right,
cannot
they
do it.
backtracked and they brought slide over back.
Thank you. Thank
we're
you.
not
I
gonna
can-
argue
I can
anymore.
sleep
But like
well
I love the windowing system on iPad.
I do too, actually.
And
Yeah.
I use it in combination with Stage Manager because I'm a sicko, and it works great on the iPad. Like the
does.
windowing and Stage Manager works really well together because you can have these little pairs of apps. The reason I loved that you brought up iPad is I just don't think there's going to be anything. Like
gonna be
it
2
will
minutes.
get
2
some of the
minutes.
stuff that the iPhone gets, which
Yeah.
should be a lot. I hope it gets that Spotlight gets some advancement, that
Yes.
it gets a bit more Mac-like because the
Yes.
UI is essentially the same, so and the interaction method's the same. Although apparently there's going to be a new Spotlight kind of Siri combo on the iPhone, so maybe it will inherit some of that too. But yeah, iPadOS, VisionOS, tvOS. I don't know, man. I don't think we're going to hear much about them.
I have a pie in the sky hope for iPad.
All right,
which
let's hear
is, I actually use the Universal Clipboard built into macOS now because it's super fast, and I've trained myself to do Command Space 4 and just go directly to the Clipboard Manager. And I do Command Space 2 for file search, all of that. And I was on my iPad with the Magic Keyboard the other day and just reflexively did Command Space 4, hoping to bring up the Universal Clipboard, or Clipboard history, to obviously no avail. I am so hoping that they bring the Spotlight that's on the Mac to iPad and let it do clipboard history. Something that something iPad has never had.
I hope so.
The ideal would be an API, so third-party apps can also make great clipboard managers, but I feel like that's less of a chance. Some kind of clipboard history, and I would be happy.
Yeah,
I mean,
I feel like with the clipboard last year, they ran the ball to like the 5-yard line and just said we're good, and it needs to be on the iPhone and the iPad too.
Yeah, you said universal, Stephen, and I hope that maybe if they're going to do this, they actually make like a shared clipboard history between devices.
Yes.
I would love that because I use the clipboard sharing with continuity all the time.
All the
like
time.
I'm posting something on my iPhone and I'm grabbing the link from the Mac that's in front of me.
Yes.
And so it would be amazing to get, on the devices that have keyboards attached to them, not just the history, but the history across devices. Like that would be pretty cool.
Yes.
I think amazing is the wrong word. I think it's expected, in 2026 that is Apple advertises the fact that these things interact with each other, and the clipboard needs the clipboard history. I feel like last year they probably just ran out of time. I'd be surprised, honestly, Stephen, if you don't get your wish But speaking,
I think that they put a lot of work into the iPad last year, right? Like they really did. Like they were like, you know what, we're gonna. It was like 2 years ago we redesigned the operating system for windowing. We're gonna do it all over again, and it's clearly a different foundation because it actually works the way that we want it to. Like they obviously threw everything away and started again. And they ended up with a system that works exactly how it should work and should have worked a long time ago, but we're all very grateful to have it now.
I think generically or across the board, I feel like the announcements are going to be lackluster on anything but Apple Intelligence. I think that we're going to get minimal improvements across the board. I feel like on the Mac, the liquid glass is going to get turned from 11 down to like 8. And the obvious problems, like you can't click on the corner of a window to resize it, those are going to get fixed, you know? But I feel like they are probably just doing everything they can to get the AI question right, because if they blow that, their stock's going to take a big dump.
All right, so every once in a while, Apple will launch a new first-party app during DubDub. We got a dedicated passwords app recently, the Journal app, Apple Invites, which people have varying opinions about, but it's actually a really great countdown widget, in case you're wondering. Are you either of you hoping for any new standalone apps? And I will start because I have 3 kids, and I use Screen Time to the max. I have used the Pro Max. I've used every feature of Screen Time. So when they moved Screen Time requests into like group messages, things got very messy there. I don't know. I don't think you're dealing with this kind of stuff yet, Myke, with your
I know
show.
I will be, though.
But you will be. I still have my very first YouTube videos were all about Screen Time controls. They're from 6 years ago, and they still get comments because people still don't know how to figure it out. And funnily enough, 6 years ago, the process for all the Screen Time stuff is basically exactly the same, which is not great on Apple's part that it hasn't changed. But I'm actually hoping for a standalone Screen Time app, one where notifications can then be managed like it's a standalone app. All the requests can be in one place, and a ton of those settings can now be in one app rather than buried in settings, which is the settings is just, a ton of stuff now. Like AirPod settings, it was rumored that's going to be broken out or done differently because it's so complicated. So I'm hoping for a dedicated Screen Time app. It's probably not going to happen, but I just want to put it out there in the world. What about either of you?
I like the idea. I have a request for an app, and this one's rumored, is we need a Siri app. We need a chatbot interface for Siri. If they're going to really make it go into this next kind of phase of compute, it needs to be like Claude and OpenAI and needs to have the harness and everything I was preaching about earlier, and that needs an app.
And a history, your conversation history that's never been there for the voice assistant. So, Myke, what about you? You want any apps?
I don't have an app specifically, but I have a request that I would be very excited about. Yes. So one of the other things that I do is I work with _David Smith and Stephen at CrossForward, the makers of WidgetSmith and Pedometer++. I want new widget sizes.
Yes.
The size of 1 or 2 app icons.
Yes.
That's what I want. And if they did that, I would be overjoyed. Because what I would love is some widgets that allow for just more information. Like little tickers of information that you could fit in a kind of like a 2 icon size widget, or a widget that is just the size of an app icon, which then could essentially become like a live updating app icon.
Yes.
Like that you could have information popping up. Like I love the time tracking app Timery, and I would love it if the icon for Timery could just change to a stop button when there's a timer running, so I don't need to have the widget on my home screen to be able to do that. Not everything needs to have a widget. Not every app needs to be as a widget on your home screen, but a lot of apps would benefit from the icons being somewhat informational at certain points. Like they could be showing you something's going on. It could be adapting and live updating, even like a calendar app being able to show you the date all the time, like that kind of stuff. So I would love them to get a bit I would say fun when it comes to kind of combining widgets and app icons.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to any other wish list items. I'm going to list a couple from me because Apple Home, which we've talked a lot about in recent episodes of Mac Power Users, I feel like has been neglected in recent years, I'll be honest, at DubDub. And I am hoping for HomeKit secure video up to 4K resolution, HomeKit camera pan and tilt controls in the Home app, which is still not there. I would love a better interface for downloading HomeKit secure video recordings, maybe a web page on iCloud.com where you can see all your cameras, download clips in bulk because maybe you're trying to find whoever package swiped you or whatever. I would love a better interface for all of that. So all the Apple Home things that come with those improvements I'm hoping for. And I know, David, are you holding out for third-party watch faces?
Yeah, I'm not even going to ask for it anymore.
Oh,
it's just like I don't think that's going to happen. But on your point of home, I've been buying more Apple Home stuff. As you know, I've been trying to stick with Apple's Home, and there is a lot of room for improvement there. I mean, it's good, but it could be so much better, and I'll agree with you.
Yeah. What about you, Myke?
What I would really love them to do is fix tvOS. And when I mean fix it, I want Netflix and TV in the TV app, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's
not on Apple.
Well, it's not on Apple. I think that Netflix would be willing to do this if the terms that Apple offered them were to their liking. And so I think Apple could do a better job of making its TV platform better if it was more, they were more willing to negotiate. I know this is the thing they could announce at an event, but it's not really anything to do with it being a developer conference. But I want them to find ways to make the TV app on all platforms, everything, absolutely everything. That's the dream. And I have 9/10 of the services that I use are in the TV app, but not all of them. So then I can't think about it all the time as the place that I can get all my TV. So that would make me so happy if they could do that.
There was even a brief moment. I don't know if it was a beta or if Netflix changed something.
But it was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
24 hours.
It was for 24 hours. Netflix did this.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. I have a big conspiracy theory about this.
Oh, yes, right. To hear it.
You can't accidentally do this. Accidentally have all of your content indexed in a TV app. Right. Someone had to build that.
Absolutely.
Now, I believe that is built, and Netflix are like, any day you want, we'll just turn it on.
Let us know.
Let us know. And I think that there is and I believe that Apple and Netflix are building a working relationship. We see that with F1, right?
True,
where they were able to rebroadcast Drive to Survive. The Canadian Grand Prix was on Netflix.
Yeah.
I think these two companies are trying to get to know each other a little better,
Sure. If Apple, also no Netflix app on the Apple Vision Pro still.
So here's a bit of information. There was one.
What?
There was one. It didn't ship.
Okay.
No, I know this to be true. Netflix made a Vision Pro app, and it didn't make it out. It didn't make it out the door for any reason other than Netflix decided.
No. I mean, YouTube got there eventually. It took them almost 2 years, so I guess I'm holding out hope still. But
and all it took was a Gemini deal.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, true.
there are dials between Netflix and Apple that can be turned.
I believe, I genuinely, I think Netflix built all of the integration for the TV app, and it just takes the right deal to make them put it live for everyone.
I also want to throw out, going back full circle to Apple Intelligence stuff, when it comes to tvOS, I've played around with the Google Streamer box, which has Gemini built in now. And it's actually really robust what you can ask it. You can say, give me movie recommendations for the family based on my viewing history, or you can just give it a bunch of stuff. And it has these new pages that come up with the suggestions. And you can even do things like tell me about a black hole, which I don't know why that's the example every AI thing uses, but tell me about a black hole. And just on your TV, it'll just give you video suggestions from YouTube, plus it'll give you a description about a black hole. So I'm hoping that the voice assistant and Apple Intelligence comes to the Apple TV, which I don't think there's...
How would they do that?
Same way it is now. I mean, Siri's on there.
It wouldn't be that hard, I don't think. Yeah.
I mean, if it could...
Especially with the new Apple TV, the new one that hasn't been
released. I think it
yet.
would need a new Apple TV. Because I think...
What's the new
it depends how much stuff is local and how much stuff isn't. Because I think local, it can't handle it. I don't think it's got what it needs to hold some of those models. But I guess it could just... I mean, it's a TV. It's always connected to the internet, right? You're not taking it out and into your pocket.
It's got the A15 Bionic chip. What was the chip in the iPhone 15 Pro? Oh, it was the A17. So they need to go at least 2 generations newer for Apple Intelligence. But we're long overdue. Yes. And all the rumors that Mark Gurman has said, like the new HomePods, the new Apple TVs, the HomePod with a screen that's been rumored for 7 years, that it's all waiting for this new voice assistant.
I think the Apple TV may fall prey to, they have other products that they would like to put chips and RAM into. That's not the Apple TV. I mean, I hope they update it, but like, I feel like it's very hard right now to predict where resources can be spent.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think, overall, since we're on Apple Intelligence again, my big wish for tomorrow for this keynote is that Apple's willing to take some risks with Apple Intelligence and not just do the safe bets, but actually really stretch, like the way Google has, the way a lot of these companies are, and frankly, the way a lot of users want. And be willing to, to stick their neck out a little bit with Apple Intelligence and take advantage of this great platform they have. I just hope they do that. I hope they don't just take the safe route.
I also think, Mike, you're talking about relationship with Netflix. I do think if Apple can play nice with more brands, more companies, it can make a lot of great experiences. And one of the other rumors was in the Apple Intelligence settings screen, right now you can log into your OpenAI account for ChatGPT Plus. I'm hoping that we might see Claude in there. We might see Claude in there.
Absolutely will. I think they're all going to be in there.
You think they're all going to be in there?
Yeah, because Google obviously is, right?
Yeah.
I know that.
I was wondering if it was going to be in there, or if it's just going to be the underlying Apple Intelligence model.
Gemini is definitely, it's the underlying thing. They're not going to talk about it, but I can't imagine a scenario where that relationship will not also result in Gemini being a top-level AI provider as well as the low-level. And I figure at that point, what AI company's not going to want to at least say, like, we'll give this a go? Now, I know OpenAI seems to feel like this didn't do for them what they wanted, but it's the iPhone. Like, if you've got the chance to be embedded into the iPhone, you're going to take it. So I think if they open that up, I expect we see all the Frontier Labs in there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, should we talk some maybe about hardware wants and more power users, David?
Yeah, let's do that.
Maybe if we'll see any other new hardware, because we do get this sometimes at WW. So we're going to go record more power users. If you become a member and support the show, you get an ad-free version plus more power users and our monthly bonus episodes, which we have a wild third monthly bonus episode coming up where David absolutely surprised me about something. The topic changed right as we hit record because of what he revealed. And it was
welcome.
maddening.
You're welcome.
Maddening. So that bonus episode's coming out soon, so you get all of that. Thanks to our sponsors this week, Ecamm, NetSuite, and WorkBrew, and we'll see you next week.